Okay, we are live.
He's got more information.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead. It is March 8th, 2023 at 5 o'clock. We'll call the EDA meeting to order. And we need to approve the EDA minutes from January 25th, 2023.
I read them, so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Okay, approve the minutes of the February 8th EDA meeting. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any motion carried. There is a CEDA update from Kaylin that is in your packet. If you haven't read it already, please do so. It's pretty self-explanatory, and she will be back here for the next council meeting to talk about items that are on there. Okay. So if I could get a motion to adjourn the EDA meeting. Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Do a good job. Okay, we'll open the March 8th, 5 o'clock council meeting. Call the meeting to order, and we will stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda for this evening. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Old business, billboard. We're still ironing out some details on the billboard. There is a question of whose property it is on. Reese and I have been in discussion with that along with the city attorney, so there's not really anything more, but we're making progress.
Meeting minutes approved.
Oh, February 8th, council meeting minutes approved. Could I get a motion? Sorry about that.
Sorry. Yep, I'll second.
Well, all in favor? Motion carried. Okay, so we'll build this billboard. So, did that make sense to everybody? Okay, all right. We should have something fairly soon on that. Okay, new business. Reese?
Microphone tonight or?
So we're trying, we have some different options, and so we're trying it out not to have to use that one, and Chris is here to monitor that, so. Yeah.
Great. Nope, just wanted to double check. So yeah, good evening, Mayor and members of council. Updates for this month are vital water main work. That one's still waiting on some paperwork, so I keep pestering them. Going on to the sanitary district. Did attach the meeting minutes from the 22nd meeting, which was our last meeting. I know that is starting to go through the House and the Senate, and so they're starting to get some of that language together, and I know that your mayor and a few of the other community mayors and Patrice are also going to a day on the Hill in Vegas tomorrow.
Oh.
And I'm sure we can talk a little bit more on exactly what's in store for those. As part of your sanitary system and wastewater treatment, the NBCA has reached out and they are requesting that we pull an actual compliance schedule together to say, they did provide a draft permit a year or so ago, and now they are pushing to say, okay, we want to get an actual formal schedule together of when you will be in compliance, whether that is a sanitary district, whether that's pumping to Zumbrota, whether that's building your own treatment plant. So the first step will be this compliance schedule, and that's relatively low effort. You can do that pretty quickly. The next step that they will request is a facility plan, which outlines all of the options that you have available and puts more of a timeline and actual expense to that. And then that would be kind of a good report that would help you guys make an educated decision on which route you would like to go. But I would anticipate that would be middle, late part of this year, of when that would be completed to the state. But before we proceed with that, we'll have to talk through and put some numbers to that and make sure we're keeping our level of effort appropriate to what needs to be done, especially with the sanitary district being in play. So I'm hopeful that we know a lot more information here in the coming months with the legislature being in session now. So alongside of that, we are going to be meeting with the city of Zumbrota to discuss that potential connection, regardless of the sanitary district. So looking at an option of, okay, do we just pump to them if the sanitary district does not in fact go through? So that meeting will be next Wednesday, and yeah, should get a little bit better inkling on what that connection fee would be, and then what some of those bigger picture items would be if we did go that route. Broadway Street is still, obviously it's still snowing, snow cold, so they're probably a couple months out before they really get out there. They really can't be paving or shouldn't be paving below 50 degrees, so we'll probably wait to get it back out there.
Is that the only street left for paving is Broadway, or is it?
They'll have both.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
There was one more layer up there then. Okay, I thought when we were moving snow, it seemed, okay, good.
Yep. So we've been trying to get that first lift in, go through one frost, and then pave the last lift. Yep. Bell, also been in discussions with MnDOT on the roundabout. I know they do need to have that gas line relocated as part of this before their project goes in. They did say that we could leave the water main in place. Now at some point that's going to need to get relocated. It is an older line, probably not in the best shape, but I have been talking with Jason, and he was going to test some of the valves over there. So worst case scenario, you don't want that line to break under the new roundabout, because then that gets very, very expensive. So if he is able to get a valve over there, or we might need to add in a new valve in case it's not working, and you can't actually turn that line off if it did break. So I know obviously there's still some snow on the ground, so he was going to be working.
We're talking the water line that runs out to the edge of town. So were we gonna replace that so it was bigger in case we had to use it?
We've been talking about it.
Okay.
As part of initially MnDOT was saying that you need to
Okay.
relocate it.
Yep.
But now they're saying that, well, it's deep enough so you don't have to as part of this, or before that goes in.
Yeah.
But again, it's still an old line.
Right.
It's small. You're not getting fire flows off of it.
Yeah, I mean, we use our drop tanks and stuff, but that day we were out there for that fire, we could not use it, we couldn't pull off with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So the other part of that, the state did provide me a draft of their plans, so they gave us the 60% plans. Just for review, I did ask them to look at some additional traffic control measures going along Broadway, just to make sure that doesn't become a speedway. So Chad, who's the project manager, was kind enough. He said he was going to reach out to his traffic operations group and see if there is a big concern there, but just want to make you aware of that. And then I did get a request to review a potential crossing along this ditch near the church lot, basically northwest of the Swanson Cape Edition. The map that I got shown, it did concern me a little bit. The length of the bridge, I don't think would be long enough. And really, we look at the drainage path through there, and based off, we did a drainage study for Broadway over here a couple of years ago, and we kind of had to model that whole area. So looking at it, I've got a map here, and I can certainly provide that, but that bottom area near the pond on the north side there, that water level starts to get out quite a ways. So it does flatten out, and the ditch isn't terribly deep. If we are going, in order to do that, you would have to do a lot of shaping, a lot of grading on the south side, and you'd really be having an issue with that being washed out. So I really, I don't recommend allowing that to be placed on city property. You know, if it is, you need to have it properly designed, you need to have it engineered so that, you know, nobody is gonna be hurt in that if there was a washout or if it wasn't structurally ready to go. So, like I said, if there are any questions, I'm happy to help answer, but I was asked to review that, and so I just wanted to provide an update on kind of what my thought would be there.
I mean, eventually, as time goes on, won't the walking trail go out far enough out that way as well anyway, or not?
It'll stay along the south side. The way we were looking at it, the basin, it'll need to get expanded if and when that area to the west does get developed. We've just done some concepts over there, so it's nothing set in stone. But the thought was to say, okay, that trail runs along the south side of that basin. And I have a feeling it's gonna need to get a little bit larger than what we initially planned because rainfall rates are going up and stormwater requirements are going up. So that exact location isn't gonna be perfected without quite a bit of effort to do so.
Mayor,
Yes,
may I ask Reese a question?
yes.
Sure. So Reese, I'd asked MnDOT about the relocation of the water line, the gas line for the roundabout. I'm happy to hear that the water line doesn't have to be moved, at least now. As to the gas line that the gas commission would have to be responsible for moving, MnDOT has responded that they could theoretically include that in there. Sorry about my dog. They could theoretically include that in their contract for the roundabout. Does that make sense for them to do that? They've said that might be more expensive. So, I mean, I guess this is for the gas commission ultimately to decide, but do you have input on how that might be best accomplished?
I guess one question is, would the gas commission perform the work themselves, or would they need to bid that out? I guess I just need to confirm.
Yes, because they put all the lines, a different company put all the lines in coming into town,
Okay.
so. You know.
So if they've already got somebody they're working with, they could, I think the cost would be under a bidding threshold to where they could just get a couple quotes to do so. The design of that isn't anything too wild. I mean, it's a fairly simple design process, but in order to meet the federal aid standards that MnDOT is requiring, there's a lot more that goes into it, to where if they just did it themselves, I think it would be a little bit more economical for them. But it certainly could be included in the MnDOT plans, but again, then you're designing it once, and then they basically have to design it into the plans, so you're kind of paying for design twice. And then you're trying to bid it through a construction project where it's primarily roadways and there isn't a ton of utility work, if any. So you're really gonna have an extra subcontractor under the prime GC that would then have a markup, or the GC would have a markup on it. So you're kind of paying a little bit of an inflated price if, you know, and then you don't really have a choice of who you get, so.
We have a gas commission meeting on the 20th, so I'll bring this back to our meeting again, just to bring it up to the gas commission as well, about the utility line.
Yeah, certainly willing to help, can do whatever else you can
Okay.
do. Otherwise, I guess that's all I had, unless there was any other questions, anything you can answer?
So, are we gonna talk about the water line more sometime? I'm not sure that it's, well, I know that you're doing something with valves and that kind of thing. Will that be enough? I mean, should it just be replaced? I
It
know it
should. I
costs
mean,
money.
If you want to have fire flow, and if you want to have city water service over to that lot, it does need to be replaced. So what it is right now, there was like an 8-inch line, I believe, that at some point got broken, and then previously they had put in like I think it was like a 2 or a 4-inch line, inside of that existing pipe to get it across the road, so it's kind of acting as a casing pipe. But really, when we're looking at fire flows, you have to have a minimum of a 6-inch line in order to be able to pull off of a hydrant. So it's really just a water source that isn't providing any fire protection over there. So, long story short, yes, it does need to be replaced at some point if you want to continue to serve that.
So mayor and council, are we responsible if they have another fire over there and we can't provide enough water? Seeing they are in the city limits?
I can't answer that, because I was on the first fire out there when we had it. We did just find out their grout tanks and everything else, but yeah, I don't know. That'd be something Bob could maybe have to look into. I don't know who's responsible for that.
Yeah, so, Mayor, if I may,
Yes,
so, part of the city's authority to approve subdivisions and developments and, changes in your city, part of your authority is to make sure that you can supply public safety. And so, yes, that's part of your obligation is to make sure that when you allow developments to occur, new buildings, whatever to occur, you gotta be able to supply, safety to that. So, are there particular facts on this example that would get you out of that? I don't know. I haven't been told enough about it, but generally speaking, that's one of the things you try to make sure you can do, right? Provide fire protection.
It's gonna cost enough just to stub down into it and put a valve and everything else on. You're already down there dealing with it. I don't know.
and how deep was it at 10 feet?
Yeah, because the ditch drops down so deep, I think crossing the state highway, that was in that 10 to 12 foot depth range. But
And they'd have to rip up that whole road to.
we wouldn't really do it that way. What we would do is we would jack and bore a casing pipe, and then they would stick the line through there. So that's not
Is there a water line there that's handy or close that we could provide what we need?
I think so.
No.
It's the one, Jason, that goes,
Oh, boy. I don't think so.
that's the only one that's went across the
Yeah.
road.
Exactly. Anything else would be to the west.
Yeah, that is the only one that crosses 58.
Yeah.
So using a hydrant on the west side wouldn't work because you can't access it. But there is, I do believe that on the west side of the street it is a little bit larger, so I think that it's not terribly much further. I think it really just does neck down once you get to the highway.
It would be more cost efficient now that we don't have to relocate it, right? We could just tie it into where it is and put a line alongside of it. We have to go north up the road and then over for a while there. That was what was costing so much or not? It wasn't that
If you
much.
do relocate it, then you do need to move it outside of the roundabout itself.
Yeah.
So it would still have to get pushed to the north, but, really that's just adding, call it 30 to 40 feet on either side, so you're talking about 80 feet. So it's not an astronomical cost, it's not nothing, but it's not kind of make or break number.
Right. Okay. I just thought maybe if we could just follow the other line and just bore through and save a lot, because it's a lot of money to change that line. It's like a lot, yeah.
And Reese, that has to be moved to this summer, correct? The utilities and the water main, that's,
The gas at a minimum does, or
Yep.
they would like it to be. Again, MnDOT did say that it could be part of the project, but, they would prefer it to be done beforehand. Same with the water doesn't have to be relocated right this second, but again, it would be wise if you are going to relocate it to do it before MnDOT comes through.
Yeah.
right, that's gonna be a nightmare.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Some more money.
well, it's something, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right. Because once that roundabout's in, it's a done deal. Yeah, well, you just go.
Do you have another meeting with Jason set up?
Not
Talk about
immediate-
that?
Not immediately, he was gonna do a little bit of digging on it, and
Okay.
and we were just gonna connect, so nothing set, time and date wise.
So So maybe once he finds that out, then that'll give us some more information. Are you okay with that, Patrice?
Mhm.
Then we'll
Sure.
just go from there.
Yeah.
Because we need all the data before we can make a decision on it. Did that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, it sounds good if we get Jason and the engineer maybe to look into see what pipe size we got closest to there and come up with a plan to solve our problem.
Any other questions for Reese?
It says here, coordinating with egg partners to assist in trail easement.
Oh,
Yes, that's right. I'd be glad to touch on that. So yeah, we did have a call with Ag Partners. Was that last week?
Yep.
Days are running together here, but.
We did.
So we did talk with them. They are agreeable to the trail easement. They weren't terribly concerned about it, given it's there now. So have been working with Bob to develop the language for that. They did request at one point, there is that Front Street stub. It's kind of like a dead end right away area. They were asking if the city would ever consider vacating that and giving that to Ag Partners if they were to ever expand. I don't think that it needs to be a part of this discussion, but I'd have to double check and make sure there's no utility lines in there that we would need to do, but I really don't see anything ever going through there. So it's really kind of underutilized space.
Anything else for Reese? Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much. All right, Goody County Soil and Water. Bo's not here, but we have,
Chad Hildebrand, and thank you for letting me come. We have Bo Kennedy is unfortunately on a field trip with his son down in Eagle Bluff, so he wasn't able to make it today. So he's having fun down there. I'm not sure if I got updated letter to you guys.
This one?
It's the same one, just a different map in the back.
Sure, go ahead.
So,
yeah.
just tweak the map a little bit.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you. I'm not sure, so we were here, last April of 2022. We were invited to come here, regarding the drinking water supply management area of City of Goodhue. And that's what kind of started with this. At that time, nitrate levels in the drinking water have been increasing. So from, advice from you guys and, agreement to have us apply for a grant on behalf of the City of Goodhue. We did apply for a drinking water supply management grant, and we were selected in January 2023, so which is great news. And that kind of brings us now here to today. Since we got the funds awarded for you guys, the next step is going to be doing the outreach meeting. So that's the letter that is in front of you guys today with the back is the updated map, kind of less lines on it. More focus on the project area. The project area is just that drinking water supply management area or that red boundary and those parcels inside. So this effort is coming from the city, and this is a letter that would be sent out to those landowners in that area to invite them to a meeting at Egg Partners on the 22nd.
Now, do you send those letters? Do you have the name of the landowners? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So this
Yep.
is just a letter, you send it on behalf of us.
Yep.
Okay.
The grant is, on behalf of you guys, we applied, so we got that, and it's gonna be in partnership with you guys to help administer and help provide that vote, and then do the outreach and then letters and all that stuff. So and there should be a time review letter before the kind of draft that Bo sent to you. The letter itself has not changed, it said just a map in the back, adjusted a little bit. And we were wondering if you just want just the mayor, if you just want to sign it, or going to the mayor and the city council, or from the mayor, city council, and us, or how you guys want that set up. Then we would ideally get this mailed out tomorrow. So.
I think it would be good to have the mayor and the city council, and then in cooperation
Mhm.
with, so they're obviously seeing that we're working with you.
Yep.
I think that would be a good idea. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, we'll get that adjusted right away, and then we'll just get that signatures and all that stuff, and we'll get that mailed out, so yeah. We got the labels all ready to go, so that should be pretty good. And then with the meeting, meetings until the 22nd from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at A. Parker's in the meeting room. So you guys are obviously invited. Hope you guys can attend to kick it off. So that's just kind of that.
I have one question on that. We could only have one other council person, because then we would have a quorum.
Yes.
So just two people.
Yeah.
So
that's
I'm
what
happy to go. I kind of blacked out my calendar, so we would just need somebody else on the 22nd to attend, so.
Well, I'm home during the day.
I'm available.
I don't work. Are you available?
I'm available.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
we'll have two people there then.
Awesome. So the next part would be, I know discussion of the city-owned parcel that City of Goodhue has inside of Duisma. It would be just just outside to the west and a little bit to the north of that waterway, kind of there. And there were discussions back in April of what we could do. So we did bring Al Kraus and Paul, what was the last name? Novotny, the city of Chatfield. So, kind of, there's discussions. I don't know if someone, go about turnip cover crop, Kernza. But there are different options that, Al, he works with that. Paul has utilized that. So if there's questions on that, they're here to help answer questions on that. It's just with city-owned property, it's an opportunity to do demonstration sites, as we discussed back in April, for that, to get a leading example in the Duisma. So, but it's not limited to just that. So if there's questions, you can answer.
So that'll be covered at this meeting.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Partners meeting, all of that.
So the meeting would be inviting landowners that are impacted by this grant opportunity. It's voluntary implementation of conservation, it's not mandatory. So it's just, we're there to help if there is a process or they want to implement cover crops, or they want to implement perennial cover, or if they want to do a no-till or low disturbance manure application. If it can fit in their operation, it is an opportunity that they can help get into contract with us to take that financial risk a little away. We can offer that financial cost share for them to do this.
You're saying the impacted areas are like the orange?
So,
Where it would go, or?
so the red shaded areas are the high vulnerability areas in the drinking water supply management area for Duisma. Those areas identified are have a higher rate of groundwater potential contamination. The blue is a moderate level, and then there's low and very low, but we don't have that in ours. That is where Scott with NBH or Katie with Minnesota Rural can explain more on that. And they'll be coming to the meeting too as well.
In this grass that the
Kernza.
where was that gonna be placed at? Or,
So it doesn't have to be, but it's an option that either city or the landowners can pursue.
to put anywhere? Or is it in the red,
In
blue?
So the project area has to be in the dark red boundary.
Okay,
The shaded red is just a higher vulnerability, and the blue is a moderate vulnerability for groundwater for nitrates to leach through.
but that grass can go anywhere inside this boundary?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep. or cover crops or no-till, or there's a list of soil health practices that are available for landowners to pursue and implement. So it turns out it was just one option. There's other perennial crops too.
So on the acreage to the west of the city, Scott Ryan does hay.
Okay.
He does organic, I think. So then that would already be considered low impact?
Yeah, because it'd be, if you're saying it'd be the perennial crop out there, it won't be, we're looking, for row crop, or if there's opportunity, if you want to adjust, that could be a conversation we have with them.
Okay, and then Kenny Ryan, he already does no-till.
Mhm.
So he's considered low impact?
So if he does no-till, if there's another practice that maybe he wants to try out to
Okay,
expand on the no-till, so you could do cover crops with no-till, or you could do cover crops, no-till, and the low disturbance manure application. And the way we had it set up in our grant application, you can stack those payments. So I think it's $50 for cover crops for a single species, $20 for no-till, and another $20 for low disturbance manure application. So you can stack all those on top for one payment. It would be $50, $70, $90 an acre. So, and it'd be a 3-year contract. Contracts would be held through the Soil and Water, since we normally work with contracts in that aspect with the county. And then we just make sure that they're abiding by the contracts and meeting the practice standards, give you guys reports and updates and all that.
So then areas owned by the city, if we chose to do that, would they pay the city?
So that depends, if you use that as match for the grant or use it for a demonstration site. It's not a conversation we would have to have.
I think we'd have to have that because I've already paid their land rent for this year, correct?
No, not for this year.
Not for this year? Okay, so those are all kind of questions that we need to ask and work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And can work with all landowners within that area since it is a voluntary implementation process.
Will this affect our plotting of the land in any way?
So these contracts, the landowner does come, it is a 3-year contract. And then after 3 years, we'll say they do cover crops. It's a 3-year contract, and after that 3 years, then they're out of contract. So the acres that they do identify would be locked in for those 3 acres, for those 3 years.
Within that 3 years, then, are you studying the groundwater to see improvements in the nitrate level?
Hopeful. Yeah. So I know we'll be studying the groundwater, but there are other research that has been done, and studies that have shown a reduction in nitrates by implementing these soil health practices. So there is that research that does support that. And that was the goal of back in April with drinking the nitrate levels starting to increase in the last 10 years, about from 2 to 7, was one of the reasons to pursue this grant opportunity. So. So, and I was at, when Paul was, City of Chatfield too, I don't know, you guys have done with the Kearns,
If you're willing, Mayor, I'm on the city council with Chatfield also.
Oh, wonderful, welcome.
So, not only being a farmer and involved in a bunch of stuff that's going on, which you guys are just learning about, also with sitting on the other side where you guys are, and in Chatfield, we're not in the same shape as you are, but our numbers are rising. So then it catches your attention is when you get to the point where you're gonna have to do something else when your water is not viable any longer. That's a huge problem. So we have some city-owned property also in Chatfield. So I think it's probably started 2016-ish, 2015. We saw a little uptick in our nitrogen. And then, ours is still very low, but we also have very young water. So the impact on the surface water, it'll have a direct impact within, I think it's like 12 to 14 years. That's our water makes it down to what we're drinking. So that caught our attention that if you have an uptick, well, one is we need to draw a line and say, okay, what can we some of our city staff ended up at, soil and water, I don't know where it came from anyway, but Kearnza came out. And being that I farm some land inside our Duisma, the city owns some land inside the Duisma, we took the approach that, well, we better lead by example. So if we're gonna try to get our neighboring landowners to do something similar, that we probably better do first. And so we started with that. We're had a little trouble with the last of our land because it's also our vital solids could get applied to that land, so we have to find new land to do that. But once we acquire that, then we'll have all the city-owned land inside our Duisma in some low-impact practice, so take a look at Kearnza. I mean, you guys have to do what you have to do, but if you look at the impacts of Kearnza, and I don't know how old your water is, and I don't know how long it takes to change, and how long you have left before you go from 7 to 10. But if you look at the root structure of Kearnza, what it actually does, it's not necessarily going to be a eyes wide open like a major profitable crop. But in our eyes, at least the group in Chatfield, is water would be more important in that circle than. So we have been working on, luckily inside our Duisma also, is there's a fair amount of CRP, there's a fair amount of low impact things taking place in Chatfield, Duisma. So we're a little different than you, where you have some nice flat farm ground around here. Everybody wants to utilize it, so you have to take that into account. But there's a lot of mitigating things you can do. We're also coming up with, you guys got lucky enough to get a grant. We are working on a program to work with the landowners outside of that, just for the simplest. The information that came out is, I think it was northwest of the city, somebody had to re-drill their well down. It was like, I don't know, $3-4 million, to get, but the scarier part than that is, that's only 20 years.
Yeah.
So they drill down to get the other water, that's a 20-year fix. If it makes it down to that water, there isn't another fix. Some sort of nitrogen, get it out of the water, whatever the case is, so. Bo had asked and we had talked, and I'm in a group that does a whole bunch of stuff with that kind of thing, so I thought maybe it would be some value in also on the city council, so I thought if you would, I would also like to offer, if you need any more information, our water guy, we deal with Scott from rural water, but also our city water guys are very on top of keeping track and knowing, and if you need any information at all, they can tell you what we're doing if anybody wants to reach out to them, or I would be too.
Yeah, that would be wonderful, because the more resources we have, obviously, the better.
Yeah, I didn't like the price tag of the ultimatum once you got to the point of where you have to do something else for water.
Yeah.
I didn't really like that, so it's a slow process, this government is figuring it all out, and you don't own the land inside the Duisma, so you're gonna have to do some work on it. It's ultimately probably gonna cost good use of money.
Yep.
Like it's gonna cost Sheffield some money, but still will be a lot less than having to do an alternative thing like hauling water in or drilling out the well.
Well, we have to look at every viable option at this
Right.
point. Jason, do you have any questions?
No, I think, I don't really have anything right now. I know we spoke a little bit about it yesterday before I came up here. Do you have anything for me, you guys, I got both Scott and Katie here, if you have questions for them. And maybe you have something you want to add, Scott?
I'll just ask.
Scott does.
I was gonna answer the state health department, and recently, like, so many health department and Minnesota Rural Water previously, and Katie is still not the position yet. So I worked with Paul and the system and Chad, yeah, I couldn't hear, but, real well, but, as far as turns it goes, it's a great crop to be grown in highly vulnerable areas because it has a great root system. All the studies shows, you get that on the landscape, it has the ability to scarf up any residual nitrogen that's left over in the growing season. And, that Chad's talking about the soil health grant, the goal, try and keep living cover, to keep the crop growing on the landscape for as long as possible, and to incorporate all the components that soil health has in it, reducing the motility passes, keeping the ground armored and covered to prevent erosion, and just to so you're utilizing the nutrients that are there. So with your plan, that map that's up on the wall, that's called your drinking water supply management area, I believe. And I can't see it, but I'm assuming that's what it is, and that's your 10-year time of travel. So that area that you're looking at, that's the area that, precipitation is falling coming down into your well and over that distance, over 10 years that's being pulled into your well. So that's the area that we really want to focus on to try and get these measures in. So in theory, when these things go on the landscape, unless you happen to hit the right spot, they're able to kind of a cumulative effect. So the thought is the more of these acres that you can get into over standard row crop production, the more protection it's going to provide for your drinking water supply and hopefully start to move the needle going the other way. Jason was telling me you guys are running around 7 parts per million for nitrates. The other thing that you have going on there is Department of Ag is also looking at working within that USM potentially with some farmers that are in the USM. They're looking at right now trying to determine from their perspective whether what's going on within the USM accounts the nitrate elevate is kind of a direct result of agricultural activities and the nitrates that are being applied in the landscape, or there's an old co-op site in town that potentially there was, maybe a point source that be going on with where the nitrates are coming from. But they're sorting through that. The map's not up there, but if you look around where Goodhue is located, the Department of Ag is also the nitrate testing in that area. And you're not an outlier. The rest of those townships that have wells there are showing up with nitrates that are at similar levels, if not higher to what the city has. So this is a way of trying to get out in front of it and prevent it. These bollard plans are good for 10 years, and your plan is due for an amendment. So you're going to kind of be starting this process off again as far as bollard planning goes. So with that, WISMA will be taking a look at again, kind of how they're doing the delineation and grading that area. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, but I don't know the size of it will increase, but I think more of it will be considered highly vulnerable. When you look at the map now, those areas that are highly compared to the other ones, it's kind of the areas that are feeding tremendous WISMA down into those areas that are considered highly vulnerable. And then that's infiltrating down sands, of course, they're textured soils in those localities. And when we redo this, probably take a look at those areas that are contributing to that as well. I would think that more of that area will be highly vulnerable in nature. So probably just to emphasize more of the need to be working with the producers there. With the amount of what's going on and usually some other tools that can do that. And Paul talked about them, but especially on the city-owned property, you can be a leader and be a in some of these practices. You're asking the farmers to do something a little bit outside their comfort level and wheelhouse. It's kind of good to kind of be the trendsetter and show that you're committed to it as well. So I think, terms of some of the relay crops and that have come out of some of these initiatives that Paul has planted over the years would be a good way to go. So,
one thing I'm gonna add, Joe, I know you asked about the plotting. It would only go on the cropland on the west side of town. It wouldn't be anything that's already been developed. It's just that field of hay that's currently run by our renter. And I do know that earlier this year, I talked with the Historical Society, and they were still on board with doing the same thing we do, taking the same approach for putting in a cover crop. And I did it. It's kind of hard to hear you guys, just in case we didn't hear something, you got a question, you might have to repeat it.
So you were talking about protecting the area for development?
No, he was wondering about something being plotted where the current would be planted. It would just be on that cropland. Nothing that's been developed.
Yeah. So do many of the farmers around, have they had their water tested, and the ones in this area, so are they concerned, or?
Some have got their own wells tested. I'm not sure if they all have or not. So, our office, we do have well testing kits that they can purchase for the county. I just don't know if they have or not, or when they did last. They always recommend every couple of years.
And I just wonder where they are
Yeah,
in nitrogen.
and that could be a part of the effort with this, for like the informational side, because if they come, well, that's something we could talk about at the meeting, because like right now, we do have some well testing kids I could bring with, and just explain, take this home, do it, send it in and see what your tests are.
Absolutely, it might make a big impact on them if they test high nitrates on their own, right?
So another thing too, our media outreach. So part of this funds can be used for educational outreach, field days, and media outreach. And we do have we work with Town Square Media for our outreach, and we've done soil health outreach in the southern part of the county, in the Zumbro watershed, which was very successful. And we do have that kind of waiting. We're just waiting for you guys on today's meeting to make sure it's okay with you guys that we can possibly utilize them for outreach efforts for the WISMA, along with flyers or letters, but also that phones like TV ads or phone ads and all that. Maybe not flip phones, but
Well, any way possible that you can educate the public, and it's gonna help, so.
yes.
Right.
But yeah, if it's okay with you guys, we can get that going. Both can get that going on Monday when he gets back in self-service, so. That's a.
So do we need to make a motion on this? I know you had already planned with the grant.
Gary?
Yeah,
Katie has one thing she'd like to just add, and then you guys can.
One opportunity that you may have with the question that you had about our other landowners seeing the nitrates is in your wellness protection plan, you have a measure that identifies hosting a nitrate clinic. And we certainly can help apply for a Minnesota Department of Health implementation grant to help financially support that nitrate clinic and help host that as well. That way you would be able to advertise the nitrate clinic, run the nitrate clinic, and be able to see what other landowners are seeing for those nitrate results. So it might give you a nice snapshot of those that attend where their nitrates are at. Their grant period is actually presently open the month of March. It closed March 31st at 4:30 p.m. So if it is something you guys are interested in, I'm more than happy to help write that grant application and work with Jason on signatures and also help host it as well.
So what does that entail, a clinic?
And so a clinic would entail advertisements, and you would send it out to all the WISMA residents. And then the clinic itself is we would get equipment from Department of Health or Department of Ag. And in that advertisement, we would just have a day where they could bring in their sample. You can set your time if you want it just in the evening, if you want it throughout the whole day. And then we advertise how they keep the sample, how much sample to bring into us. And we test it on site with equipment, that borrowed equipment. So they get their results right away. And then, again, you'll be able to see that results because we keep it anonymous. Everybody gets like a tag. If you're at there, I'm guessing you're going to know majority of the people bringing it in. But it's also just to know where the levels are at in each of those private wells. The grant itself can pay for the advertisement. It can pay for, staff time that is associated with being at the nitrate clinic. And those fees, so it's the cost associated. So if you have rolls at it or, sodas or whatever be it may, it can pay for that component of it as well, so. And you could host it right at City Hall if that's a place, if that's your location, or if you feel that it's a better location, we can rent a facility to host it as well. Yeah, and we could also think even bigger, and if we want to do something with the district and make it even bigger, we certainly can look at expanding it as well if you want it above and beyond like your city, your drinking water to as well.
If you write a grant for this testing, what kind of financial responsibility will the city have out of that?
So we can apply for up to $10,000 with this implementation grant. So our goal would be that it would be a grant that's no match is required. How that grant operates though is you pay, apply for the grant. If you're awarded the grant contract, after the grant contract, then you do the work. So you would host an X-ray clinic. You pay all the bills associated with it, and then the grant reimburses you for your expenses that you incurred. So we should, as long as we budget accordingly, I've never seen an X-ray clinic cost $10,000. So we would be able to stay within the grant world. We just have to make sure that we ask for what we need.
Well, to the rest of the council, I think that would be a great idea if we're gonna proceed with all the stuff we're doing in the first place. So it'd be my motion that we have her write a grant for that.
It can also be a great catalyst for education. So we'll have education materials. We can do some recruitment and have additional staff invited around a lot of that day so that they can have representatives there talking about management practices and no-till cover crops and even some urban practices. So.
Sure.
I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. So Jason, if you could bring some more information home when you come back from Katie, and then we'll get started on the grant process there.
She can email me this stuff today.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, I will all the information and I will work on that for the rollout conference.
Okay.
Madam
Yes.
Mayor,
More questions for me, anybody? Any more questions, or
No,
if we're good, then thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Alan Kraus, and since my name is up there on your screen, I thought I at least better introduce myself as a Conservation Program Manager with Clean River Partners. And in the name of the Paper Reduction Act, I brought a little more paper that if you want to pass it off. I certainly won't go into any of that tonight, Chad or Council, but we have worked with the University of Minnesota on the Kernza work, as well as a number of other projects and some of these relay crops that are coming out. We went to Catalina to work with Paul a little bit down there in the Chatfield project. But what I've handed up there to you tonight is just this one handout from 2021 on Kernza. It's dated now, but it actually has some really good information about the University of Minnesota's Kernza project. That funding for the Kernza work comes through the Department of Agriculture, is into 23 and 24 for that matter. And I visited them with them a little bit about a project here on the city of Goodhue's land, similar to the city of Chatfield's land. They have projects running on city land over in Luverne and Edgerton. And they're very excited about a Kernza project as a demonstration, as what Paul has said and as what Scott has said, is a way to provide leadership for the city in the practices that you'd like to see more perennial cover and continuous living cover on the ground within your tuition. So there's that handout. You can review it when you have time. The other handout I gave to you is just a project that we've worked on with farmers over in Dundas, Minnesota, on planting cover crops on about a third of the tillable acres in a small watershed there. It's a little trout stream called Race Creek. And we studied tile drainage line, nitrate discharge and tile drainage from fields with cover crops and fields without. And when you have time, you can look at the data that we've collected there. But just in a nutshell, where you plant cover crops, you have about 30% less nitrate leaving tile lines than when you don't plant cover crops. That's not a new finding, frankly. That finding has been out there, documented by lots of other organizations, universities, and other study groups. We've just put it together locally to really help give that litmus test right back to the farmers in that area. This is what's happening under the fields where you're operating. Side by side. I mean, these fields sit right alongside of each other. about a dozen or more farmers that are involved in the project, so it's been really, actually quite well received. We've been holding meetings for all the 5 years that this project has been running. And frankly, it's the potential that the nitrate impairment that is listed by MPCA on Rice Creek, trout stream, could be lifted. If that happens, it will be the first time in the state of Minnesota's history when a nitrate impairment on a body of water would have been lifted. That happened by the farmers, okay? So it can be done, right? You have to set your mind to it that you can do it. So this grant that you worked with Bo and Chad and Scott and Katie and the others to put together for your city is very meaningful. You have a really great opportunity here to set the term long-term to address something that your constituents need, drinking water, right? So review that when you have time. We're here for a resource. Paul has offered his, continued hand-holding as you move through it. Obviously, as a city council, that's a really different perspective than what we have as a nonprofit organization, as well as what SWCD has as a technical support organization. You need that community around you to, really provide support and move forward into a new way of doing agriculture on the landscape. So, I farmed for 25 years. I have a little bit of idea what Paul's up against. I don't do it anymore, but I do know what it's about. So,
Thank you.
and that's glad to be here, and we're willing and able to be here as you move through it. So,
Do you have something, Jason?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you guys as a council don't have to decide on that current of grass tonight.
that's correct.
Yeah, no,
I mean, let's get the information and do the research.
Exactly. Yes, that's a good point.
so then is this stuff harvested?
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was one of the things, if you were gonna ask a bunch of questions about Curza.
Yeah.
It does a fabulous job at scavenging nitrogen and leftover nutrients. I mean, I think it was, I planted mine in the fall of, I might be wrong, I think it was the fall of 2017. We did a field day in 2018, before harvest, a little over a year, almost a year. It would have been, with this stuff, to harvest it, you need to plant it the fall before, and then you can harvest it the next fall. So you lose it's not normal to normal cropping. Plant it one fall, you harvest it the next fall. Okay, so we did a field day in 2018, and maybe it was around August. There's pictures of it somewhere. The roots of the Kernza were 11 feet down. 11 feet. We dug 11-foot hole to get to the bottom. In 1 year. So it's doing so I'm coming at it a little different perspective. I mean, everybody's working on something. I'm wondering, as a farmer, and looking at Kernza, there's another thing with Kernza, but I'm looking at it, can I plant corn, and then maybe plant soybeans, and then maybe can I enter this crop into my rotation to clean up anything that I've lost? And then start over, so I don't have to totally give up, or, because we need all the crops that are being grown, so you can't just say, okay, well, in these certain areas, we're not gonna grow corn, because you don't grow it around Goodhue, you don't grow it around Chapel, well, the farmer drinking the water that's just outside that area is gonna have the same exact crop. So, it's a crop for everybody. But right now, with Kernza, if you choose to go Kernza, what we're doing in Chatfield is, there's a newly formed co-op, there's a bunch of stuff. The market is not totally.
Quiet is the way the market is quiet.
Right, so it's a total new thing for a farmer. I did it in 2017, didn't even have all the right equipment to harvest corn. I mean, it's totally stepping out of your normal farming operation, figuring something out, but the way I look at it is somebody has to do it. People have to do it and figure it out, and they'd already practiced some of this beforehand. And the benefits for the water is what caught my interest, and then also being a good steward on certain other things that I'm like, but it comes with, there's not a great market for it, there's a bunch of stuff to it, but in the name of the water for your town, it's definitely worth looking at. There's other practices that work too, but this is a great one. Does a great job cleaning things up, hands down.
I will say, honestly, if you just Google Kernza these days, there's a ton of information about it. Kernza.org is the main sort of website where you can really learn a lot about it. One of your growers here in Goodhue County has already been growing Kernza. Caleb Anderson, just west of town here, kind of worked a little bit with Bo's team on that project. And that is one where the interesting thing with Kernza, it's a perennial, like alfalfa, you cut it, grows back the next year. With Kernza, you can graze off the forage growth early in spring, graze it right down to the ground. By July, it's back up this tall. You harvest the grain. You can harvest the straw from that grain. And then in the fall, it'll grow back up again. Not too tall there, probably about that tall. And by late October, early November, you can take another grazing. And on Caleb's farm, we did that for 4 years in a row. Spring and fall grazing with a summer harvest of grain. Okay, you plant it once, right? And you have 4 years of production out of it. So it's a very versatile crop. We kicked around, different ideas that could happen here on this Goodhue plot as a real demonstration of what could happen inside of a Duisma. There are some other partners, some industry partners that would, be very interested in visiting with you on what those options might be. So, I think Jason mentioned that, yeah, tonight's not a decision. Right? This was just, you folks have a lot in front of you here. And what I think our hope really was just to share information with you. You're not the first to have faced sort of where you're at here. And there are a lot of options, right? There's a lot of room for opportunities. So as you think about it, we're here to help.
Yeah, thank you, it's very educational.
So I'll get that letter updated with the signature lines for the mayor, the city council, and then to impart cooperation with Salt Water. We'll get that to you as fast as we can. And then we'll get the media outreach going as soon as Paul gets back and get that started. And then with the March 22nd meeting right here in Ag Partners. So,
Chad, can I give you this just for my name on the bottom?
Yep.
Just change it to that.
Okay.
Nobody knows me but the other.
We'll do it. If there's ever any questions too, feel free to reach out anytime. Stop at our office too, so we'll be there.
Okay.
Keep moving.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about it
Yeah,
on the
it's
22nd.
Yeah. Especially with producing that kind of results, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's well needs water.
All right, good. Thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Public Works update. There's nothing that we need to act on tonight. Jason is gone to St. Cloud. He just wanted us to read over that, and then if we have any questions, we can forward them. Please pay attention to the quote, though, for the air compressor. Okay. Great. Is there anything you wanted to add, Jason, or are we good?
No, I think I'm good, unless you guys have questions, otherwise,
Yep. Okay.
I will be back tomorrow.
Sounds good.
Yeah, to move snow, I guess.
Again. Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you. Okay. Thank you. Rail Riders, UTV raffle.
Trey Karen here on behalf of the Goody Belchester Rail Riders. We've done a UTV raffle in August for the last, I think it's been 6 years now. We're looking at doing it again, so looking for approval for
Be in
the.
touch.
Yes, if you got any other questions, that's what I got.
How many years have you been doing it?
I think it's been 6 years.
6 years?
Oh,
Okay.
it goes well every year too.
Yeah. So we just need a motion to approve the raffle.
I'll motion to approve the raffle.
Need a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, thank you. J.C.'s Volksfest liquor license.
Hello, Trey Karen again on behalf of the JC's.
You're gonna have to sit down. Pretty good.
Alright,
Looking to just get approval for the temporary liquor license for Goody Volks Fest again.
So I have some concerns, and it's not something that happens just one time, but, last year, we noticed that there was people serving alcohol that should not be serving alcohol.
Yep, that was brought to my attention afterwards. I didn't really notice it much, so thanks for bringing it up. We'll do better at controlling this year. We do have some kids sort of behind the bar that are running a gate and are running some money around and things like that. And they get cups and supplies for us and stuff that they can do. But yeah, they shouldn't be serving and shouldn't have stepped in those areas.
Yeah, and it's, as an adult, you know what to give a person as far as how much alcohol, but I mean, I think they were 16 serving, pouring, so just, we don't want to see that. And then the other thing was the security that they're going to have for it. I would encourage them to enforce the underage.
Yep, and they do.
So, because there was a lot of them running around last year that were.
Yeah, so the beginning of the night, we meet with all the police as well as our security, and we go through what bands are approved, or wristbands are approved, what are underage, et cetera. And they're all trying to enforce it, our security as well as the law enforcement that runs through there.
Okay. Yeah.
And like anything, you do the best you can, but there's no means you're gonna get everybody.
Yeah, that's just, I mean, I've been going to these for a few years, not as long as you have, but that's just a couple things that I noticed was seniors in high school that were just obliterated. So, yeah, I mean, those are the only two concerns I had with the underage.
anybody else have any questions?
Well, to add to Chris's deal there, I think that if you see somebody like that, the security should get them, escort them out, and make sure that they get home or wherever they're supposed to go.
And they do.
That's part of our obligation of having this.
You know, our security can't detain anybody, can't really enforce anything, but the police officers can. So their protocol is if they see something out of line or illegal, that they would hold them and call over an officer. And that's what they do.
I would expect that.
So Mayor,
Because if you want to continue to have this, which I think is a nice fundraiser for the community, I think most of the people enjoy it, but we also have to be responsible. And we have to be held responsible. So it's your security's job to make sure that they catch these people and turn them over to the officers so we don't have any, something bad happening.
Yep, I 100% agree.
Did you have something, Bob?
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. So Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so Mayor, you and I briefly talked about this earlier today. So just to be clear, I don't see from the packet information I have whether this is a beer and wine temporary license or a license to sell liquor. Is that clear to the council? Is that clear to Jill, the clerk? I'm not clear from the packet. Your code, your ordinances allow for either kind of temporary license. I'm not sure which kind has been applied for, but clearly the city should be clear itself about what it's approving. Are you approving a wine and beer thing or a liquor thing?
So the application that goes to the state is a 3-day temporary off-sale license or an event license. It doesn't actually specify beer, wine, or liquor. It's just all encompassing. You approve the license, the state approves the license, I should say. It approves all forms of alcohol.
Yeah.
And to that point,
Yeah, so Mayor,
we are
you said
looking
that,
at,
so.
yeah, and to that point, we are looking at serving all of them as well.
Yeah, so, under the city code, under your laws, for the city of Goodhue, you're right, that's exactly right. In order for there to be a beer, wine, and liquor, temporary license issued, that has to go to the state to be approved. And if it was just a beer and wine, it would just be the city's approval. So I take it the representative is saying it's a liquor, beer and wine license that's being applied for. So just to be clear about that.
Well, I heard, excuse me, but I heard there was some disgruntled bar owners about the liquor part. And I'm not sure about what all happened, but I know that both bars were very upset that they were selling liquor out there too, instead of just the beer and the wine.
Correct. Every year, that comes up. So to give a little bit of history there, we haven't always served alcohol inside. And when we, or shouldn't say alcohol, was served liquor, hard liquor inside. And when we didn't sell hard liquor inside the dance area, the bars were, or people were bringing it in. They were coming outside of a bar and walking into the street dance with it. And it opened up, the cities, the bars, or the city, not the cities, the bars as well as ourselves up to liability. Because the bar's license is only for the premise, and they can't walk outside the door with it, and the city was allowing them to. The city was allowing them to walk through their property to get to our license area, or our bar area, and then drink within ours. So to try and cover ourselves up, we brought this to light with the city, and that's when we kind of shut off carry-ins through the gate. We said, we need to watch out for ourselves. I don't care if the city was gonna enforce the bars of carrying outside of the door there or not, but we were looking out for ourselves. And then it come to the point of, do we just serve beer and no one drinks alcohol? And some people don't like beer. A fair amount of people don't like beer. So that's when we started serving it inside ourselves. It was more of a liability issue than it was to piss anybody off or anything like that.
Reduce your sales.
Yeah, so, Mayor and Council, to the point that Councilmember Benda is making, whether this charitable organization is allowed to serve beer, wine, and alcohol, or just beer and wine, is up to the council. That's your call to make. That's not, I mean, it's not up to the bars, it's not up to this organization to decide that. That's your call to make. So, I'm not sure what has been applied for here. I guess I think I'm hearing that it's been applied for to have all three allowed, but that's the council's decision to make.
And that's your application for all three?
This is what we're asking for, correct?
That's what they are asking for, Bob? Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that. Yep.
Okay.
Well, I'll motion to approve the liquor license.
Do I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, update on planned streets.
Oh, that's me.
Might be
The
something,
other
but I'll let
Jason,
you.
bless your rest. Just looking to, close the street. I'm Charlie Dickey with JC's with Trey. So, just would like to close, Thursday at noon for stage setup till Sunday, stage tear down.
Yep, usually have it cleaned up by, the parade start.
That's the same format as you use every year.
And
So
then,
one change identified last year is that we haven't actually ever in the history come to the city and asked for permission or anything to close the street. It's just, to your point, it's just a regular
Something that's been
thing,
done.
and it's been done every year. People just assume it's gonna happen. We do go, because it's a county road, we go to the county and file a permit to close it with the county, but we haven't done anything with the city. There was some concerns around that last year during Volksfest, so that's what we're trying to do here. get permission, make it an actual plan with the city, but it is no change from what we've done in the past.
Yeah, so you said that these are the same times as you did last year,
Correct.
and then you'll just continue to work with Todd and Jason like you did last year, sure, because I think they helped you a little bit or whatever.
And have you gone to the county yet?
No.
No, okay. So, we appreciate you coming, and at least then we officially have it on the board, so.
Absolutely.
Could we get a motion to approve the planned street closure for the Volksfest?
I motion to approve the street closures.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Charlie.
There's a little bit more to that. So we are looking at doing let me see that again, looking at doing the garden tractor pull again. Last year was gonna be the first year of it, and the weight sled broke down, so we weren't able to. So we were looking at closing down from I forget the street number, the 3rd Avenue in front of the bank over to the Catholic church there. And running it on the street. That would be, I forget, it was Saturday afternoon, I forget the exact time.
After the bank would be closed anyway, right? So they want you to
Should
use
be
the
back up.
Right,
If I remember right, it was like 1 to 4.
okay. I thought we approved it last year, and then we just never didn't get going.
Yep, it come to the day of and we weren't able to do it. I think that's the only other event that I can think of anyway, right now, that would need a street closure.
But
And
it
that's
would be
just
finished
for that event time.
by
It would be
4
open
o'clock?
the whole rest of the weekend,
But it would be finished by 4,
I wanna say.
okay, because we have church, Catholic church, has mass at 5:30, so have to be cleaned up and open up for that. Is that a problem?
Don't believe so.
Okay.
And you won't go that whole distance though, would you, all the way up to the church?
Not quite, no,
Okay.
Okay.
but it goes between those 2 blocks.
I think they did that for
Or
the
it needs to
distance,
get
because it was
closed.
gonna go partway
Yeah.
into, for the distance. I thought it was, and then they just had to make it to that street, just for,
Yeah, it's not like they can come down that street any farther anyway, cause
Yeah,
You
once you
Because
get to
of
the alley, you're done.
the alley, the bank, and
Because of the
usually Weeds's truck is parked there with the generators on it, so it's not like you can.
Correct, for the street dance, we close to the alleyway.
Yeah.
Yep.
We go back to the other entrance of the bank, and on the other end of the block, it goes, from the corner bar back to the alleyway, down towards, Broadway to the alleyway, and then it goes back 2nd Avenue to the First Residence driveway.
Yeah, cause it's just 2nd to 3rd Street.
And that covers the food court and our street dance and backstage.
Okay. Volksfest fireworks
Yeah,
permit.
you're back again.
Oh.
Actually, can, behalf of the Volksfest committee this time. This is for the fireworks permit. We do the fireworks show down at Rosie's Park, right around 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Just looking for a fireworks permit there. It would be the same company running it that we've had in the past. They come with the pyrotechnician, they let everything off. I don't think I have anything else to
Are they
say.
insured themselves, or do you insure them, or who insures that when that goes on?
They have their own insurance, but they also list the city of Goodhue and the purchaser, as additionally insured.
and then I get a copy.
Sure, no, it's the same as every other year then.
I think one of the issues that have come up with the fireworks, and I know that Mr. Benda spent quite a considerable amount of time cleaning up. There was a lot of mess on the school's football field, and how many hours did you spend, Joe?
I spent a full day there.
Yeah.
And I know that you and I, cleaned up the football field.
Yeah. There's a
So-
lot of debris.
Somebody needs to be responsible for cleaning that up. Because you have all these little wads and all these little pieces of foil paper. And I mean, they're only, a lot of them are only maybe an inch by a half an inch, but it's garbage. And, you know, and somebody has to be responsible for picking that up.
Do they come back the next day to do any cleanup, or do they just?
The
Nobody did
fireworks
anything.
company,
Yeah.
they're not gonna, I don't think, anyway, go over to the football field and pick up the small debris, stuff like that, but the company themselves, will pick up the tubes and
Their ignition
Yeah.
area.
all their
All
ignition
that.
area, correct, they pick up that.
Well, I'm talking that the JCs are gonna have to be responsible to have some people up there to clean up that field. Because I spent a full day there and I know that Terry and I spent some considerable time there too.
4 hours. It's a lot of pickup, a lot of garbage. So, we could at least get
Well, as
some,
little as those pieces are, I filled 2 7-gallon buckets full of them wads and little pieces of paper and foil that are 3/4 of an inch by a half inch or half inch by a half inch. It's just a lot of litter. And somebody has to be responsible. So I would say that the JCs should, you know, that should be
Well, it's
part of
not-
their cleanup.
I will say, it's not the JCs, this is a separate committee.
Well,
It's the-
whoever,
The
Whoever-
Goodyear Community
somebody's got
Fund is a
to be
nonprofit we're setting up that'll actually run Volksfest. So it is that foundation that would be responsible. So yes, I'm here tonight, just to try and get approval on a lot of this stuff to move along. If you would like to table that one, we certainly can. Mike Brunkhorst, the, previous council member here, is the one on the committee that's heading up fireworks, and if you want to table it, I'm happy to have him come back and speak to it more.
I don't think we
well,
need
I
to really.
personally, excuse me, I personally would like to see whoever's responsible for it come to the city council and say, yes, we are gonna clean the mess up. Whoever that may be.
So then are you asking to table this until,
Yeah, I would like somebody from whoever's responsible to come and tell us what they're gonna do.
okay. So we'll table this and maybe Mike could come and visit with us.
And he may have further plans.
Yeah.
I just haven't talked to him about this exact point, so I'm not fully sure.
Well, what I'm saying is there needs to be somebody responsible for it, so they should have a plan ahead of time, who's gonna take care of it.
All right, thank you. Okay, Goodyear School Ag Department Road Closure Request, April 14th, 2023.
Mayor, can I have you table that item? Go ahead and vote to table it.
Oh, sure. Could I get a motion to table the fireworks
Oh.
permit?
I move that we
I'll second.
table the fireworks.
You got a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, Goodyear School Ag Department Road Closure. Is there anybody here to talk to that, or, no? Just the paper? Okay, so they did do it last year as well, it went well without any issues,
I move that we allow that to happen for the FFA.
okay, Yep.
It's between the two parking lots
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
of the
Between
school.
the
Okay.
two.
They just shut it down for the school hours.
Could you hear that, Joe?
No, I missed it, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's, they closed the school in between the two parking lots for their FFA Ag Day. And it was something that they did last year. So they're asking to do it again this year on the FFA.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right, so could I get a motion to allow the Ag Department to close the road on April 14th of 2023? Did I just do that?
Mhm.
Oh, did,
Yep.
we did?
Yeah, we need a second.
We need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, limited use permit 58 and 9 roundabout sign. Which one is that?
It's a 55-page from the state.
Isn't it this one, Joe? Yep, it's the signature one. See that?
Oh, no.
Okay. So could I ask, is this a standard procedure? Bob,
Mayor and council, I couldn't hear anything you said.
is this a standard form, standard procedure in, I'm not sure. Joe?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah, because it came from the Minnesota Department of Highway, so
Okay,
they need to have permission to close down the road.
so this is just to close down the road. Okay,
So, sorry, Mayor, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with you. You're looking at a document that's in the packet called limited use permit.
Correct.
yes,
And that document relates to a trail that's adjunct next to MnDOT's right of way.
What's in the
Right.
red here, yeah, that's what they're talking right here.
cool.
This,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that it? Yeah.
Am I on the same page with you? And I think it's a section of trail, I think it's a section of trail that we're working on getting an easement from Ag Partners for other portions of this trail.
Right,
And just a portion of the trail that encroaches into MnDOT's right of way. And I think that's all fine. If I have that right, and that's my understanding of what we're talking about the portion of the trail that encroaches into MnDOT's right of way. It's all fine. I guess I would ask you to table this as well
yeah,
until we have the Ag Partners easement in place, because until we have that, we don't have the other ends of the trail. So I think we ought to approve both the Ag Partners portion of the trail and the MnDOT portion of the trail all at once. But other than that, Mayor and Council, I mean, the document itself, I've read the document, it's fine. I just wouldn't, I think we need to nail down the whole trail segment all at once, and we ought to do that at the same meeting.
okay.
Good.
Okay. So could I get a motion to table the document, the
State document.
state document, until we get all the information from Reese, Bob, and Ag Partners?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Mayor, before you move on, just to let the council know about the real quick thing I shared with you earlier today. So I did talk to Ag Partners CEO, and they are on board generally. Of course, Reese and I have to figure out the details, and we're working on that, but they are generally on board with the idea of granting that easement for the trail that's been there for a long time, of course, over their property, but they are on board with that. So I think all of this is on schedule and on the right course. It's just we need to get the documents nailed down, and we'll continue to work on that.
Okay. So, did I do all in favor? So,
I don't remember.
I think, okay.
Just do it again.
Okay, so we make motion to table this.
Yep.
Okay, say, Patrice, did you make the first motion?
I did. Did I?
Yes, and then Jason seconded it,
Jason
so all in
seconded.
favor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, good. Okay. The next item is the North Zumbro Sanitary District, general obligation bond resolution. And that is NH at the top, it says City of Goodhue. What we do need to do yet is, add the file numbers. The Senate file numbers and the House file numbers. And we have those, Jill, I can get those to you. They're out there floating around. Mr. Bose, did you have any questions about this? As far as a legal document?
Yeah, no, the resolution in support of the state, supporting you for funding of the joint sanitary sewer, no. I looked that over, of course, I also represent Pine Island, and no, I understand where that's going, and I don't have a comment on the resolution.
Okay. So I think we need to, do we need to take a roll call vote on this one, it looks like? Okay. So we need a roll call. So I need a motion first. Pass the resolution, to accept the resolution as written. Okay, and I need a second.
Second.
Okay, and then I'll just call for your vote. Is it correct, Joe? Yep. Chris? Aye. Aye. Joe Benda?
Yes.
Patrice O'Reilly?
Yes.
Jason Tooman?
Yes.
Mayor Ellen Anderson Buck? Yes. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Next, Goodhue Community Fire Truck Association. Okay, that packet is in there. Bob has addressed that. In the packet, was it in there, Joe?
It was in an email.
Oh, in the email, yep. So you didn't get that.
I was at the meeting, I attended the meeting.
Yep, okay, good. So we have to read that on your own. Okay. So,
Mayor?
yep,
Can I just, since I'm here, remotely albeit, but can I just summarize what I said about that?
sure.
If that's, yeah, I mean, so just to summarize that verbally, as with almost every multiple township, multiple city fire association like you have, there are many, many, many of them around the state. Those are formed by agreement, right? They're formed by agreement between the participating cities and townships to provide fire protection services. And those agreements are binding contracts, binding agreements on the parties to the agreement. Your agreement addresses the purchase of equipment like fire trucks. And the proposal that's in front of you now to pay for a portion of a new fire truck requires an amendment to that agreement. So that's all I've said. Obviously, this council can agree to that. You certainly can change the current agreement that says you wouldn't pay for a new fire truck. You can change that, but that requires an amendment to the agreement. So all I've said is if the association, the body that includes other cities and other townships, wants to do that, wants to have you help pay for it, that we should propose an amendment to the agreement and you should vote on that. So I just want to be clear about what I've said. I have no problem with you changing the agreement, but the current agreement says you would not pay for new equipment. The agreement would have to be amended for you to pay for new equipment.
And the current agreement just renewed, correct, Bob?
That's right.
And that goes out to 2035?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me,
2030.
Mayor, that's not right, yeah.
Okay.
So then, what? We decide,
Well,
we just leave it, or do we decide that we wanna, we need to meet with them?
Yeah, so, Mayor, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
So the fire group, the group that provides fire services that you're part of, that you've contracted with some other municipalities around you to provide fire services, there's actually a joint board, right, that you have membership on, right? The city has membership on the Fire Association Board. And if that board wants to change the deal, change the agreement, then that board should make a proposal to change the deal. So I don't understand why Goodhue, the city of Goodhue, would propose a change to that agreement that frankly requires you to pay money. I would think that the board would propose that change. And if they do that, then I think the council here should consider that, of course. But yeah, so I don't think there's anything for you to do at this point. I think at this point, given that there's a request to have you pay for a fire truck, the board should propose a change to the agreement, and you should consider that when they propose that to you.
Sure.
That answer your question, Patrice? Yep. Okay. Yep. Any other questions on that? Are we good? Okay, City Day on the Hill. Patrice and I will be going tomorrow. We are meeting, we have several different meetings throughout the afternoon with different legislators and senators. Patrice and I will be on the caucus floor from 3 o'clock until 3:30. So we're going to do our very best to really promote the sanitary district and how vital it is to our community. We also have, I have a spreadsheet that Patrice and I have both been receiving, and we have numerous meetings, and you only get 15 minutes with every legislator or senator. So, and they're all the way so far up through March 28th. So there are different days. I mean, there were some that were held today, there are some tomorrow, and then next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the week after. So this is a big push. So we're trying to get our face in front of as many people as we can so they really understand the need for this sanitary district. So we will report back when we get back late tomorrow night. Okay?
In the snow,
In the snow.
Oh, yeah, there's gonna be a little bit of snow.
but she's got a 4-wheel drive pickup, a
Okay.
big one, so we're gonna make it.
We're gonna make it. Okay. Next on the agenda is open meeting law. Bob?
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, so your clerk Jill suggested just a reminder, and I frequently do this, frankly, for new councils, and you are a new council, you've got a new council majority here. Just to remind you about how the open meeting law works, and I'll be incredibly short, 3 minutes or less. I think you all understand, because the league has provided or made the opportunity available to you to have training about this. You know, when local governments like cities make decisions, we have to do those at meetings that are publicly noticed and are available for the public to come to. You've got a couple of folks sitting in the room right now. Reese is one of them. He's not really a member of the public, but you know what I'm saying. They're open to the public, and you can come to the meetings. And of course, that's how you have to do business. There are two ways that cities sort of screw that up, and that's, I think, was what Jill wanted me to remind you of. One is that if we sit around after a council meeting closes for too long, people get worried that we've sat there and after the meeting closed and everyone went home, we made other decisions. I've been at enough of your meetings to know that's not what's happening. That hasn't been what's happening in the past, and it's not what's happening now. But I would just remind you that when you sit around and talk about life in Goodhue, which is what every city council does, don't talk about things that are coming up on your agenda. Talk about things you decided tonight, or talk about things in the past. Look backwards, don't look forwards. In other words, when you sit around the table tonight after the meeting closes. And then the other thing that gets cities in trouble is that it's something called serial meetings, where let's say the mayor is aware of something that's coming up on an agenda. and thinks there's another council member who is probably really concerned about that, well, the mayor is entitled to talk to that council member about that item. That's fine. That's not an open meeting law issue. The issue that comes up sometimes is when the mayor talks to council member A, that council member talks to council member B, B talks to C, right? And so we turn it into a serial conversation about some item. I have no reason to believe that's occurred or would occur, but that's the other way that cities, sometimes people get worried about council member A talks to B, talks to C, talks to D, and then all of a sudden the vote is already decided before the meeting. And so I just encourage you to remember that you ought to talk about your decisions you're going to make at the meeting, not before the meeting. So that's my super 3-minute brief discussion. Again, I've not seen any reason to be worried about this, but it's a good reminder for a new council to do your business in the open meeting, not outside of the meeting. And I'll stop there, Mayor.
Yep. Any questions for Bob? Nope. Okay, good. Public comment. You have any? Nope. Nobody? Okay, motion to approve the bills.
I was just going through and looking at the numbers from the last time, but that's a whole month of it, that's why, right? Because that's a big
Right.
difference right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
So we're essentially approving
2 months.
2 months.
Right, that's what I was.
Yeah.
Gee, I thought for sure I had something.
You always do, you'll find something.
See first. Take that. Okay, I don't know what this is. This is on the receipt register, page 1 of 1. And Goodhue County, 125. ACH ream warrant, oh, that's a court fine. That's court stuff, right? That must be this one. It's in the middle. That must be.
Yep, reimbursement.
Oh, that's just some kind of-
Okay, well, that's good. Get some money coming in. That's good. I think that was. Shoot.
Go ahead. I don't, didn't find it either, but she figured it out. Okay.
I think I was on the wrong. No, I would never make a mistake.
So that Centra, they reimburse us for, on page, was it 2 of 2 on the receipt register? So we pay the advertisement and then they reimburse
Oh,
us?
is this Sempra? Yeah, so back in, December, they held that public meeting.
Right.
So the city, so they posted that, the public meeting that they held. So the city had to pay for the publishing, so they reimbursed us for that, $34 for the ad that went on the paper.
Dude, what was the miscellaneous revenues about? 157.50, what is that from? It's on 2 of 2 on the second one.
So if you go all the way
Is
to
that for the fence?
This?
Yeah.
go to the left, Kyle Ponslet,
Yep.
he requested some data from the city.
Oh, okay.
So it's miscellaneous, so it goes into
Okay,
the general
sure.
fund.
Yep, he was just getting data from the city.
Yep.
Okay.
So any data requests go under miscellaneous revenue?
Miscellaneous general, yep.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, well, a lot of diesel, we moved a lot of snow. should get changed on here too, it's still listed Roy and Al's, it's Royals now.
Yep, and I did have to cut them a new check.
Okay, yep.
Yep, so that one should go out as a void.
Sure.
Let's see, if you tell me the page number.
It's 5 of 15.
Yep, so at the timing of the printing, it did not,
Okay, well, just as long as
because
it's
of the,
corrected.
yep.
Do we pay $59 a month for the handicap bathroom? Is that a month? Is it used in the winter?
Yes.
It is? Okay, good. Yeah, that's what we wanna know, as long as it's being used.
I know that for a fact.
Good.
Okay, good.
Well, as long as it's being used, that's what it's there for.
I know it's pretty frozen in there, and usually you have to shovel your way out, but, or in.
Okay. On the top of page 9 of 15, what is HSA forgotten?
Health service.
I know, but what's forgotten?
So, so when I balanced the January checkbook,
Yep.
we had 3 payrolls in, December because, the January 1st, we're gonna be off till the Tuesday, so we pay it the Friday before. And so then when I went to reconcile January's bank, I had missed putting the HSA in there. So and then I needed to do a catch up for that one.
And on page 10 of 15, the Red Cedar 202, that is our last payment?
Correct.
Of $5,000?
Correct.
That's a good thing.
Oh, that was just coming up, yep.
Yeah.
Here.
That's the last. Just
Good.
good. Okay.
And all of that information has been submitted and approved by the Department of Human Resource.
Okay, great.
Why was the one avoided on 11 of 15 to Winthrop and Winston, PA? There was a check voided for $4,500. What was that about?
Because I took the full total.
Oh, okay,
It's-
so
and
we
it-
just have to change, because that's what, that,
Yep.
yeah, that's the other number, okay. Yep.
On page 14 of 15 for the 2023 camera rental, is that a monthly occurrence? I thought we had our own cameras. It's on the bottom.
That's the one that we rent from Mitch and Jess.
Yeah, down at the car wash.
Oh,
It's
okay.
their camera, we're renting it to get footage
Okay,
for that
yep,
area that we,
got it.
On the fire station maintenance, was that when the guys came and looked at the roof? It must have been. They come and inspected the roof. Right in here, we were at so many percent of that. That's a check that went to the Goodhue Community Fire Truck Association.
Yeah, so that is,
Yeah.
that's their yearly,
That's their
Oh.
yearly what they give.
it's 22.5%.
Okay, sure. There's a lot of them that met all the time, or like, Crow's Blue Shield, all that.
It's done.
Yeah, it's expensive.
And the dental, all that, yeah, that's where it takes a
Okay,
at least. I move we approve
okay. Did I get a second? All those in favor of approving the bills? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.